Every country in the world has debt. America's debt has exceeded $38 trillion. The European Union has 14 trillion. Japan has 9 trillion. Even oil-rich or export giant countries are swimming in debt. But here's an interesting question. If everyone has debt, then where or to whom is this debt? The answer is actually a bit surprising. Countries are not mostly indebted to someone else. They are often indebted to themselves. But of course, this does not mean everyone earns income from it in the same way. The foundation of this debt issue is much older than you might think. Long before credit cards and digital transfers, the idea of national debt emerged out of conflict. In 1694, England was running out of money while fighting France. The king turned to merchants for help. Help us now, and we will pay you back with more later. To manage this, the Bank of England was established. This is how the modern government bond came into existence. Over time, other countries followed the same path. Even the United States used this method to finance its independence. And so, borrowing became not a sign of weakness, but on the contrary, a sign of strength. In the past, countries fought for land to gain gold. Now they issue bonds and collect interest. The battlefield has become the ledger. Today, debt is practically the world's largest export. The U.S. owes 38 trillion, Japan 9 trillion, and total global debt has surpassed $315 trillion. Every country is in debt, every bank lends money, and every individual is both a debtor and a creditor. So who exactly does the U.S. owe? About half of the 38 trillion is publicly held, meaning owed to investors. Most of these investors are American. Banks, funds, insurance companies, etc. The portion held by foreigners is around $9 trillion. Japan is in first place, followed by China, the UK, Luxembourg. So the phrase the U.S. owes China isn't a lie, but it's only a tiny part of the total. In reality, America's debt is mostly to Americans themselves. The government issues bonds, banks and funds buy them, the Fed buys them back and creates money, taxes pay the interest. That interest goes into retirement funds, a complete cycle. And this cycle exists not only in the U.S., but in every country around the world. Japan lends to the U.S. lends to Europe. Through the IMF, Europe lends to developing nations through the World Bank. They, in turn, invest their foreign reserves in Western bonds and lend back. Everyone tries to look as if they're keeping each other's promises. And the thing holding this entire structure together is trust. When trust disappears. Just look at Greece. Panic broke out, interest rates spiked. Europe and the IMF stepped in. But the burden fell on the people. Argentina and Sri Lanka are suffering from the same situation. In the modern system, government debt doesn't exist to be repaid. It exists to be constantly rolled over. Governments don't have a plan to pay off the principal. They take on new debt to pay the old one. Economists call this refinancing. The real product is interest. Today, government bonds are considered so reliable that the system depends on them never being fully paid off. If the U.S. somehow cleared all its debt, the global financial system would collapse. Because what we call a bond is actually the backbone of the world economy. So the goal isn't to eliminate debt, but to keep it manageable. But there's another side to this. Saying we owe the debt to ourselves is true, but incomplete. Interest payments don't reach everyone equally. They flow upward, from taxpayers and workers, to banks, funds, and big investors. That's why as debt grows, inequality grows too. In the end, the system works like this. Governments issue debt. Banks multiply it, investors buy and sell it, and we live within this system. The line between debt and money has almost disappeared. Debt was once necessary. Today it is balance. But if one day that balance breaks, then we remember what debt truly is, a promise that cannot last forever.